I've had a great chance now working with a Crunch franchise for a little over 4 years. In that time frame, we've grown since I got there to, I think we had 28 locations at the time, and today we're sitting at 86 with I think 5 more in pre-sale. And I don't know, I hear numbers like 200 is the goal.
Hi, I'm Lauren Parsons.
And I'm Andy Jackson, and this is the All Well Co podcast.
Dive deep with us as leading experts share their unique perspectives on topics such as recovery, sleep, movement, and the latest innovations in the space.
Hey Rob, welcome to the All Well Co podcast. And, before we dive into your journey and talk about your life, career, etc., let's just kind of set the stage. Can you just let everybody know how you and I met? Because I know you and I have known each other for several decades, and kind of what drew you into the All Well Co community.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you guys so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Gosh, Andy, I think we got to go all the way back more to PTA Global and just all the association. But, for when I say PTA Global, I even have to go back to PT on the Net before that, which was obviously just a revolutionary product. One of the first things probably to market when it came to the internet, which of course dates how old I am. But, what everybody and Richard and all the whole gang created was just unbelievable. And then, of course, I had the pleasure of being able to work with NASM for years, and just by chance, sometimes people move on, but Rodney Korn was always one of my biggest mentors. And when Rodney and Bobby Capuccio and they joined Michelle and others, Ian, to form PTA Global, I certainly wanted to see what they were bringing. And, from there, of course, Michelle then comes out with Viper, and, it's just this great time in the industry. But I think that kind of goes back to our time, doesn't it, Andy?
Yeah, I think it does. Just for some of the listeners who wouldn't know of those times, this was, like you say, when the internet started. Those guys just brought together one of the very first fantastic communities in PT on the Net. It was a bit of a monster, and then they brought out the certification PTA Global, and that's how I got involved. I was working at FitPro at that time, and we bought those two companies, and that's what brought me over to the US. So yeah, some great visionary leaders there. I think Rodney's at Exos now, isn't he? And Richard's doing something with Pure Fitness, and obviously Michelle's still doing the Viper. These, Lauren, are really awesome. I know you know some of them. These are really awesome people in the industry. Yep. So tell me a little bit, and so obviously through me, you got to All Well Co. But tell me what drew you a little bit to All Well Co. and our platform.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. It's again, it all comes down to relationships, right? So I've had a great chance now working with a Crunch franchise for a little over 4 years, and in that time frame, we've grown since I got there to, I think we had 28 locations at the time, and today we're sitting at 86 with I think 5 more in pre-sale. And I don't know, I hear numbers like 200 is the goal. And with us growing and expanding, you and I were connecting and always looking at different opportunities. I've always been a big fan of some of the products that you guys carry, as well with the partnerships that you guys have, especially like the Vivo shoes. And we just had some great connections, and you were like, hey, we'd love to be able to help your team out and with some of the different products. And of course, as we were saying off camera, my team is extremely excited and happy for that assistance, and we can't wait for some of the education as well that we talked about. So obviously there's just a plethora of information that you guys have just at our fingertips, and especially it's free, and who doesn't want more education, especially from, let's just say, credible sources as well, because in this day and age, everybody has a voice now, and sometimes it's hard to decipher between that. So we greatly appreciate it, though. And again, I go back to what I started with that, which was relationships. And you've been fantastic, Andy, and Lauren, being able to meet you today has been great.
Well, we better make sure we give some good education today then, right? So let's go right back to the beginning with you, Rob. Let's talk a bit about you before we get into it. Talk a little bit about your journey into the fitness industry, and in essence, how did that lead you into Crunch?
Yeah, it's kind of been a long journey at this point, which I always say is good and bad. The good, because I've had an absolute blast working, doing things that I love. the bad, because it's been an awful long time when I start giving you timelines of things. But really, really quickly, I originally did my bachelor's. I wanted to be a physical education teacher, and I wanted to be an athletic trainer. And I had wrestled in college, which took up a lot of time. So after my sophomore year, I really wasn't going to have the ability to fulfill the hours that I needed if I wanted to continue wrestling. Note where my priorities were not. And I decided to go on from athletic training. I went over to exercise science. But again, I really wanted to teach kids and teach kids fitness. Right after I graduated, I was landed at a local Gold's Gym while I was kind of deciding what I was going to do. And they actually had a fitness nutrition program that I always say, get this, it was on a computer. Ooh. But this, again, I always have to explain this to trainers today because, as I keep saying, I'm the ancient one. We didn't have cell phones back then. The internet wasn't public. You know what I mean? This was even before AOL dial-up. So to be able to go through a program, which it was called Apex Fitness at the time, that really gave you this readout for more like, I'm going to use the terms it's familiar to us, but not the layman, but body composition change. I never learned a thing about that in school. We never learned one thing in any of my exercise science classes about losing body fat, gaining lean body mass, any of that stuff. So this was just music to my ears. Fell in love with the program, wound up moving around, worked at a few different gyms, wound up working for the company. They hired me, and it just so happened that the owner, Neil Spruce, he actually owned NASM at the time as well. So I worked for him on the Apex side for quite a few years. Then I transitioned over to NASM. I think it was around 1999. Rodney actually brought me over from that side. We were in the same building, same offices and everything else. So wound up going over to NASM, spent a great amount of time there. I always give Rodney so much credit because when Rodney came on, the actual leadership group, the educational leadership group, wound up leaving the company at that time. And I'll use the names because it's a great story, but Lenny Parasino was pretty much leading the education, and he left to form some crazy company called Ground Zero, which today is known as Free Motion. And Rodney was the new guy, and all of a sudden, all the previous things that we had done in NASM, Rodney really didn't have a bias towards it because he had just finished his master's and his background. And they actually went and they found Mike Clark speaking at a conference, and they said, we need him. And I always, again, want to give Rodney credit because he really replaced himself essentially, and not many people would have, let's just say, the pride or the confidence to be able to do so. And when we brought Mike on, we actually brought Lenny back along with many others, and we had a core group of about 8 to 10 people total. And that was kind of the new NASM that, everybody knows today as the OPT model and all that. So I was there till 2005 full time, but I'll tell you guys, I got the itch that I just wanted to get back in and work with, everyday people again. I missed that. I really did. And a really good friend of mine that I had worked with previously in the industry, he had helped start up a health club chain based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. So I trusted. He said, come on. He goes, I want to make you more of our educational director. But he said at the time, we aren't big enough to have you do that full time, but he says, we will get there. But he said, let me put you in one of our newest clubs so you can learn the business again. And I always say that was invaluable. I mean, all I was doing was traveling the country teaching workshops to, new trainers or trainers looking for CEUs. But to get back in and get your, hands dirty again with sales and everything else, you have to learn. And I became such a big hypocrite because I love the science. I'm a total geek and dork about it, but I learned very quickly. It is so much personality. Let me find the personality. And I kind of made this stupid saying, but I always say, we look to hire the hardware so we can download the software. But if the hardware is not there, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I'm obviously making this up for the sake of the story, but if it's like, Andy, you might know everything in the world about the body, but if you just don't have that personality that you can talk to somebody, it's like, it doesn't work out really well. And don't get me wrong, some people are more introverted, extroverted, but anyway, I actually spent 10 years with the company. We went from 5 locations when I started to 23 locations. Then it wound up, company got sold to Gold's Gym International. I actually worked for them for a short amount of time. I was the senior director of learning and development, and great people, based out of Dallas at the time. They've kind of sold a few times since. And, but I really, I missed some certain things. So I went back to Neil Spruce, and the evolution of Apex later became what's called Dot Fit today. He had wound up in the 90s gaining his greatest client ever, which was 24-hour fitness. And that was their heyday, especially. And at the time, after working as being their nutritional partner for years, 24-hour fitness wound up buying Apex. And then let's just say, after there was a clean break, Neil was like, I'm going to start new. And that's where he formed Dot Fit. So I actually spent about 6 years with Neil doing that. And then again, got the itch, said, I want to get back in the clubs. And a real good friend of mine that I worked with at The Rush actually contacted me from Crunch. And he said, hey, we need somebody to do what you did for us at The Rush. And that's when he brought me in. And it's been a great partnership ever since.
Yeah. So Rob, I'm really interested in your role today. So the VP of Education. What does that look like at Crunch, and how is it unique in the fitness space?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Lauren, it's what I did when I first came in. Crunch Corporate, of course, does a fantastic job of supplying education and information to all their franchises. The group that I'm with, though, I always call them ringers because they all have heavy, heavy health club experience, and let's just say they're at an advanced level compared to maybe a brand new franchisee that doesn't come from the industry, that
Sure.
needs a true playbook on how do I hire a general manager, how do I do a tour. And just our group, in all honesty, was just past that. So we took what they all have developed, and then we immediately I have a lot of fun because I like to actually film it myself, I edit it myself, and then we actually put it on our own LMS system that I wound up managing. So that way, let's say, Lauren, you're going to be on, let's call it the membership sales side. So you have a whole, let's say, educational rollout of all types of different classes that we created, everything from how to actually take somebody like Andy, who might be a guest in the club, on a Crunch tour, to learning our back end metrics. We have quite a few classes. We have 17 classes actually that more of the membership sales side goes through. Some of them are very short. I wound up doing a fitness basics. So that way, at least it's on video that our newcomers, and again, I'm making this up obviously, but Lauren, if you had no background in the industry, just to give you enough information about the basics of resistance training or cardio or nutrition. So that way, again, you can always defer to the trainers, but you have a general knowledge and you're not that person going, I have no idea. So I did that with the sales side, with the personal training side, group fitness side, and then we manage it. And I was lucky enough that this group, they saw the value in training and development. I mean, I have to put it back to them because there's more companies that do this, but there's a lot that do not. I don't think they see the value, and I think they suffer from it, in all honesty.
Wow. So you educate on every single aspect of the business, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's not that I'm an expert. Obviously, there's times that every time I'll always defer to our subject matter experts that are within the field, whether it's our vice president of sales or group fitness or personal training. So it's always, obviously, it's not what I'm saying, but we all have input. But I came to their company, so we're going to do it the way they want. But it's worked out fantastic. So that way,
awesome.
ideally, imagine, Lauren, it's your first day. We have a nice little, let's say, schedule of events to get you started. And it's not just throwing you in the deep end of the water and saying, the next time the phone rings, pick it up and, figure it out. There's a module on how to be able to answer the telephone if a prospective member is calling, and what we can do to hopefully, increase that lead potential and have them come in and enjoy a membership with us.
Yeah. So along the same lines, Crunch is known for, at least as an outsider, for its energy and inclusiveness.
Yes.
Is this something you train? And how do you maintain this culture consistently across locations? I mean, it can't be something you just read.
Right, right. No, and I love the two words you used to describe crunch. I think that's fantastic. You know what? I would say, and not gonna lie, we're at 86 now, so it's harder to be able to always maintain that level. But it's really with the people you hire, the people that are at the top, whether it's going to be more of a club manager or a multi-club manager. But you got to lead by example. You know what I mean? And if I can, it's just so much different today. Let's say getting somebody started on a membership than it was when I was in the clubs full time. You know what I mean? It just is the volume of people that sign up because nowadays it's month to month. It's not that expensive. When I was always in the clubs, when you joined a health club, it was almost like a marriage. You know what I mean? Because if somebody else opened, you're like, no, 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 I go there. Nowadays, I even know a lot of our staff members. You know, I mean, I'm not saying anything out of turn here, but a lot of our own staff has memberships to other places because I think sometimes they just want to be a member, but it allows people to be members at multiple places.
Mhm.
So going back to your question though, I think we have to always lead by example with the energy. And that's going to be with from bright colors in the club. That's going to be from the music. And you better believe, to me, this is one of the most important things, but it's how you're greeted when you come in. It's a big pet peeve of mine, in all honesty, in any business, that if we're not acknowledged when we walk in. And I always say, I think that's really the difference maker as well. Just a big hello and or a big goodbye as you're walking out, and how to be as helpful as possible.
So, Rob, you just said that you're up to what, 86 clubs? So, just for those people who don't understand crunch, how many total crunch clubs are there roughly?
Right now, I know there's just over 500. I'm not sure the exact number, but I know we've broken that 500 club
So, you
barrier.
must be the biggest franchise group.
We are now. We are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
It's been quite a journey as well because when I started, we were not. We were actually one of the most productive, if you will, especially with personal training. But now we do hold the title of also the largest number.
Mm.
So, in terms of those 500 and the corporate group, etc., how much influence are they having on how you train your coaches in your franchise group?
Well, it is interesting because as you mentioned, and if anybody has not heard this before, I always like to say, imagine crunch is if I have this circle right here and this is crunch, but there's two silos that make up crunch. So there are, like you mentioned, the corporate locations that are entirely run a certain way that have nothing to do with the other silo that I'm a part of, which is the franchise side. And recently, within the last year, there's been a big, let's just say, leadership change at the top for Crunch Corporate. And the new group that has come in has just been open arms to everything that we've been doing, which has been wonderful. The old group was too, but the new group is even more. And it's, they're using us quite a bit as really, hey, the standard of this is working for them. How can we replicate that within the system?
Mm.
So obviously, this podcast is not going to be heard by anyone else but Crunch. Obviously not. But come on, give away some of the secrets. So not just who you might share with the rest of Crunch, but what are you guys doing to make truly exceptional trainers or coaches in 2025? I know what we used to do back in the early 2000s, etc. But
Yeah.
2025, you just said it's a different world. So what do you guys do to take your trainers from new, tired, people who just need a bit of a pep talk to make them truly exceptional?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you're going to laugh because it's like, it's my title, but I can't take any of the credit for this because they were doing this before I came to the company. But it's the training and development. When I first came to the company, they were already doing a 2-day, what we call training camp. And the first day was what we called acquisition school. So there, we have every coach uh, with Crunch. Let me back up for 1 second. Lauren, I'm just going to use you again as my token if you were a new member. But if you were a brand new member that signed up, like every company out there, you get that that first session that we're basically wanting to take you through a process and then be able to see if, hey, we can find a program to match what you're looking for. And we train every trainer on how to do this themselves. And I'll tell you, even where I worked, which I thought we were pretty darn successful, we didn't do it that way. We did it where our trainer might go out and take somebody through, let's say, a complimentary workout, but then the managers would normally do more of their price presentation. And here we train the trainers on how to do it. They're
That
even
makes sense.
scored on how to do it because it's very diligent and it's been tried and true. And the process, you know what I mean. And if you can imagine, sometimes when we have people that come from other organizations, they might have a harder time than somebody that's brand new because they're kind of set in their ways. But we went from 2 days when I first got here. I had previously done a 3-day, I like to say, like, crunchified or health clubified version of a CPT class, because I always find that somebody might be ISSA, NASM, ACE, ACSM, and you get the idea. So at least I would provide a little bit more of an overview. And as you guys know, almost everything's online anyway. There's no real live interaction. There's a little bit, but not like the old days. So a lot of people, even they get their certification, they still don't know what to do. So that way I would have the ability to sit with them for 3 whole days, and we would go over everything from obviously the sciences, but one of my biggest things is I always like to call it your training posture. And I'm not even talking about science of, like, how are you I'm talking about how do you look when you're training a client? Are you that person that's sitting with their phone? Are they got their arms crossed? Are they leaning against a piece of equipment? Like, you got to realize you're representing not just yourself but the company the entire time. So we've changed over the 4.5 years I've been there, the training camp days, but that's been a mainstay. Right now it's back at 3 days. So that way we get some really good, the term's been used in the industry, but sales, science, and service. So that way we can prepare the coaches to get out there. And you're not limited by one manager. So Andy, I know I keep doing this, I'm sorry, but to come all the way back to your question, many places out there, they rely on one person to do, let's say, the price presentation. And we all know if that person leaves or if they weren't that good. Here, we're always training everybody to be able to do so. So
I
that's a
like
big
that.
difference for me to be able to see.
I like that a lot, Rob, because it makes sense. If you take me through a workout and I'm convinced about it and I like you and I'm building a rapport and I'm there sweating in front of you, and then you're the one who, just nice and gently brings in the conversation, hey, if you enjoyed this today and you want to join, here's the process. That makes sense. Rather than, back in the old days, I remember I used to get taken into a separate office.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd sit down with this person and you go, it's like when they sell a car to you.
I was just going to say that.
When they sell a car to you,
Let me go
you
ask my
suddenly
manager.
Let's go get my manager come in, and then you get this hard sell. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Andy, can I throw one last thing in too? One thing I love that we had done kind of on our own a little bit again, but we have an entirely different price structure than maybe what was always recommended. So to make it simple, though, we really do have an option for everybody, whether it's 60-minute, 30-minute, how many days per week. We can find something to match, really, even if it had to be once a month, for gosh sakes. The goal is just get somebody involved, because we know if they become a member, if they become a client of personal training or they're taking group fitness classes, the life of their membership is going to stay so much longer and everybody's happy. So that's another thing. We're not putting ourselves in a box by saying, well, we have 3 options, and that's where it becomes very tough to figure that out, because maybe everybody's budget doesn't allow for those 3 options.
Yeah, I was actually reading this morning, there's a new bit of research out about the value of what they call MVP members, in terms of those members who are just what you're saying. They're doing personal training. They're at the club 2 or 3 times a day. The influence of them on new members is almost more than the members of the team. So people are all now looking at, how do I keep these guys happy? How do I keep these really, they've been coming to Crunch for 12 years.
Yes.
They know everything about the club, etc. So that makes complete sense that you're focusing on that. Okay, so that's the initial. That gets them in. That's the secret sauce. So I've been with you 2 or 3 years. I've got my set way of kind of doing it. How do you approach ongoing education for these trainers, and what are the pillars of your programs?
Yeah, no, great question. So we incentivize the trainers by the amount of sessions they service per pay period. Let's put it that way. So the goal is always making sure that we're seeing our clients, we're not letting them cancel, figuring out a way if they had to cancel that we can fit them back in, because we just know if they cancel that's their accountability, you know what I mean? And they told us they had really important goals. We want to get them there. So one of the things I do get to do, and I'm not going to lie, it's one of my favorite things to do in the world. I get to go club to club, and I teach normally about 2-hour workshops. So we've got a whole host of different titles, from kettlebells, battle ropes, hands-on stretching, program design. We did a glute workshop specifically, as that's always been such a big topic in the last, for quite a long time, especially the last 5 years, and the list goes on. So I get to do that, which is a blast. I actually have another great coworker that helps me do that in one of our areas as well. His name's Kevin, down in South Florida. And then recently, the vice president of personal training for our company, his name is Derek Druce. He came up with a great idea, and he said, let's put together a head coach position. So every club, Lauren, it's going to be you again. So Lauren might be that coach that maybe she doesn't want to go into management, but she is a stellar coach. She's an education information junkie. She loves helping people, right? And helping the team. And again, I don't mean to be that everybody has to be an education junkie, because she might just love helping the team. But we find that right person in the club. So I've been able to now have that as a team that's within the clubs. So what we did was we put together about 7 different topics of education that I wanted to keep very stable, so we can do it on a quarterly basis, because we do hire every single month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just as any business, we are going to lose some people. We're going to be always looking to hire. So that way, we've got the education set up for basic flexibility. So Lauren's going to be teaching this Wednesday her group foam rolling. You know what I mean? Or static stretching, you know what I mean? Or equipment orientation. I think that's such a big thing. Sometimes we have brand new trainers that show up, they don't know how to use all the equipment. You know what I mean? It's just an example.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we've got a bunch of topics. So we do it within the club. I get to do it a little bit more on a corporate level. And then going back to the LMS system, I've got a bunch of those videos and more that's on our network. So they get to watch those, and they get CEUs for watching them. I always just say, I hope you don't mind watching a video again of the short, fat, bald guy, but you got to see it again, right? But that way they can, refer back to it. They can always go back. So right now I've been working on bringing in outsiders as well. So I'm going to have Neil Spruce actually speaking for us on Monday on creatine supplementation. You know what I mean? They're just
cool.
loving information education. As we talked about, would love to be able to have some of the folks with education on the Vivos and, the whole thing with the zero drop. I and they love that stuff. So Andy and Lauren, we really try to give them as much as we can. And then to your other part of the question, when somebody comes in, they're coming in more or less at, let's just call it a trainer level. There's one of the dogs, by the way. They can then progress based upon their education and hours worked to what we call the elite level. They can even go from there to then what we call the master level. So we've got those 3 tiers. That does seem to keep everybody fairly motivated. I'm sure there's going to be more evolutions of this as well as we continue to go on.
Yeah. So, Rob, switching gears just a little bit, tell me about how you stay ahead of trends, especially now that AI is in the mix, right? Things are moving very, very quickly. So, whether the trend be hybrid training or any new modalities, kind of that we hear about these days, how do you stay ahead of that in your education approach?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Lauren, I think it's just being aware with enough different sources of what is coming out. And, again, I hope this isn't going to be unpopular, but you guys, I love technology. I am not a huge fan of a lot of AI stuff. I've not even touched ChatGPT myself. You know what I mean? I just, maybe call me old school, but and we have some AI stuff as well. But I just feel that's the person. I mean, it's been out for so long anyway to do videos. And it was always the running joke back in the day. Again, we have to explain to people what VHS tapes were of exercise, but how many people really utilize that stuff? I mean, it was such a low percentage. So that kind of stuff has always been there, and I just don't think anything replaces the human interaction that we provide. So going back, Lauren, I think being out there, and I want to say this though, and you guys tell me what you think as well, because you guys see so many great things that are out there. But I also find what we do is so cyclical as well. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to use an example, but the zone diet comes, or what was it? Comes Atkins, and then it's the zone. Everything keeps coming around. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we can still go back to the basics. And in this social media world too, it's like everybody has to do something that's different just to sell their product, when in essence it was the same thing as before, or you're just complicating things so much that you're like, look, you know what I mean? It's not my goal, Lauren, if you were my brand new client that was deconditioned, to just literally put you through our total line of equipment. But guess what? People still saw results doing that. You know what I mean? We know there's much better we can do for that too, but sometimes I think we overcomplicate things.
Yeah. Sexy sells, extreme sells.
Yep.
It's just what's current day. But in reality, it's the basics. It's the things that are tried and true, the boring stuff,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yep. And if I can, and I know this is something we talked about offline just a tad though, but it's really refreshing to see all the breakthrough and the understanding of recovery though. Because again, when I grew up, it was no pain, no gain. You know what I mean? That whole prospect. And, you look at it to the professional Olympic level, they just know. I mean, you know, that body's one body, you know what I mean? And you got to recharge the battery, you know what I mean? What you're wanting to get out of it. So it's really neat to see that. And we talk about that all the time to prospective members, because I always try to explain to our fitness junkies out there that, remember, I always say we're the weird ones. We're the ones that love to get sore. And a lot of the trainers I get to work with, they really don't think they did anything in the workout unless they can't walk for 4 days. But we're the
Yeah.
weirdos that love that, right? But how many people out there have tried a workout, got horribly sore, never wanted to work out again? So it's almost music to their ears to say, Andy, you know what I mean? Our goal is, helping you along on your fitness journey, but I want you to be able to climb the stairs going, to the second floor in your house. I want you to brush your teeth. I want you to feel like you did something, but I want you to be able to be mobile and functional and not just this stiff board walking around. So that's been a really cool thing, that my personal opinion on what I've seen with the industry, probably the last 5-10 years.
Yeah. I actually completely agree with you. We were both athletes.
Well, Lauren was a real athlete.
Well, no. We were both athletes, and I think that was the mentality: is no pain, no gain, just more,
if I
more,
didn't
more.
throw up in preseason, it was like I hadn't worked out properly.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, it transfers over to business now too. I don't know if you've seen, but CEOs and certain things, it used to be that if you don't sleep, you're the warrior, right?
Yeah.
But now sleep,
Yeah.
it's so crucial. And that's
Got my
kind of
vote recently, and especially when they came out with the health age, I was really interested in that. But yeah, you're so right. You're so right.
Yeah. So, and maybe you already said it, but what's one outdated myth or belief in fitness that you're working to break within the industry? I mean, I guess recovery is already out there, so that's not really a myth, but
Yeah, a lot of the stuff seems to, I think, have gotten through that I dealt with back in the day, but I still do find a lot of people, and a lot of our market is Florida, and I mean, we've got some amazing in shape people here, and we have other markets as well with amazing in shape people there too. But Florida just seems to stand out, where I just kind of like to refer to it a little bit sometimes as the gym science. And depending upon who you follow on Instagram, and there's a lot of obviously great people out there that give you real good science, but there's a lot of the influencers, or I hate to say it, but a lot of the people I grew up reading about in magazines that now I see on Instagram, and there's still a lot of that belief of, well, I can target the inner pecs versus the outer pecs if I do this and that kind of thing. And I still find a lot of the coaches, when they're brand new and they were just members of the gym, they do believe some of that stuff. So we try to break that down a little bit, that it's all good and we can still do all those variations. Just understand what we're really trying to do, working within different ranges of motion and so forth. But that's probably the biggest one. I still get people on the nutrition side that get real carb phobic. And you guys know, I don't want to open up too much of a can here, but it still goes back and forth between calories. No, it's not about calories. And you know what I mean? And it's like, let's really get down to the black and white. I mean, it's about calories, but obviously the different types of calories are going to make you feel different. So yeah, a calorie is a calorie, but if I just give you 2,000 calories of junk, well, you're not going to want to work out. You're not going to have energy. You're not going to feel alert. So yeah, I mean, it's how you feel. But so I would say a lot of that we still deal with too.
Yeah, interesting, because it kind of leads on to our sort of next question. Is that I've always felt that the best retention for people in a club is actually get them the results, and those results need to be individualized because not everybody's looking for the same thing. So
Yes.
how does your great trainer education translate into getting those results and then to retention? Is there anything really unique or specific you're doing that helps you to? You can't guarantee member results or retention because that's down to them. But what are you up to?
I'll tell you what comes to my mind to answer this is just this, and it might not be the exact answer you guys were looking for, but I really do believe we have to keep getting across to our coaches to make it to the client that we're making small mental changes within their programs. I remember when I got started, you guys, and what we used to do, no joke, was, again, I go, Lauren, if you were totally out of shape, never worked out, but it was like, welcome to personal training. Okay, no more drinking, no more smoking, no more eating out at restaurants. You need to go grocery shopping, bring all your food home, cook it, keep it refrigerated, bring it with you. I need you to drink a gallon of water every single day. You're going to be seeing me 3 times a week, but I need you to do something else on the weekend. I need you to have 8 hours of sleep every single night, 10,000. I mean, people's heads were exploding. And what would happen is you would drop out. And then I talked to my friend Andy, who's another trainer, and I go, yeah, remember Lauren? She just didn't want it bad enough. And you're like, what on earth are we thinking trying to change somebody's entire life, especially overnight? So now, like, everything in moderation, right? Now, there's great numbers out there, steps and everything else, but it's like, Lauren, if you're averaging 2,000 steps a day, maybe let's work towards 2,500. You know what I mean? Or, small little changes. If you're logging food and that's too much, let's log breakfast and just get an idea of what that's like. We're here for the long haul. We're not, I always say, who won the race, the tortoise or the hare? I mean, people come out originally and they come out sprinting because there was some trigger event that got them in the club, because most people have been thinking about it for a long period of time. So something triggered them to go, I got to do this. So they're all excited. But then after they realize, well, wait a minute, it doesn't happen overnight. We got to keep and maintain that. So I think setting realistic goals with members is just huge, and expectations. You know what I mean? And here's what we're gonna do. And you guys know, once they start to see those results, if they can just hang in there with us, then it's that snowball effect. And I've always found too that even for myself, if I'm doing better with my nutrition, or I'm taking my supplements, or I'm getting my workouts in, then I'm better at the other factors too, because everything else feels really good about it, So I hope that's somewhat of answering the question you had on that one.
I mean, the one thing, just so you're aware, one of the key pillars of this podcast is perspective, but it's your perspective, not ours.
Yep.
So don't worry we're not looking for any answer. We want your perspective because you've got such a wealth of experience. We want you to pass that on to all the other professionals. I love that you weren't necessarily having a go at influencers, but you kind of were. As you know, we don't like the word influence here. We call all of our people, you included, professional advocates. You should have a bit more credibility. Let me ask you this.
Yep.
This is your perspective. Okay, so I'm not leading you anywhere here.
Yep.
So I'm a personal trainer. I've had the same 15 clients for 3 years. Okay. What do you think of me as a personal trainer?
I think you're phenomenal. If
Why?
with you that long.
Why I kept the same people all the time. Surely they would leave me if they got the results.
No, are you kidding me? And well, and I know you're asking the question, but it's, I say maintenance is a way harder program than getting to the goal, right? Because getting to the goal, at least you kind of see the target out in the future. But when you get there, can you maintain that same level of, let's say, commitment to say, here's what I have to do to keep staying this way, right? So no, we reward based upon it. I think it's phenomenal. You've got great
Okay.
relationships with that person, and yeah, 100% hands down. The goal is not just get you there and let you be. And don't get me wrong, if you were that person, Andy, and you said, I'm just making it up, I want to lose 15 pounds. When I lose 15 pounds, I'm good to go. If you're happy with that afterwards, obviously we're not trying to make you stay, but we find a lot of people, we want to keep that relationship because of, again, maintaining those results.
Okay. Awesome. Now, there's a huge explosion, obviously, at home fitness, tech tools. There's all sorts of things that basically would mean I don't need to come to Crunch. So, what are you guys doing in your in-gym experience to stay competitive against all of these things at home?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something we talked about a little bit earlier in our podcast. It's the personal interaction. I've seen clubs, and I've even heard it proposed at one point to have turnstiles, and I know I'd be way against that. That does not give you the opportunity to say, "Hey, Lauren. Hey, Andy. How's it going? Hey, have a great workout, you guys." You know what I mean? And on your way out, have an awesome day. It was great seeing you guys. And maybe your birthday is today. You know what I mean? And I see that, and I could say, "Happy birthday." You know what I mean? You've been doing so good because I see your picture when we first started. Just those kind of interactions. And I just don't think you get that at home.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's and again, there's going to be a percentage of people that are super disciplined and they want to stick to something, but most people, at home is so tough. You guys can't see it, and I'm not going to move my camera, but I have a dang indoor bike right over here that I have not used once, and my wife is downstairs, so she's going to yell at me. But I was like, oh, I'm going to do cardio in the mornings before I go to the gym. I haven't used it one time, you guys, and I love exercising just like you guys, but I still don't even do it, right? But
Yeah.
when you go to the gym, you know what I mean? I gotta go. When you get there, how many people have we ever found that completed their workout and afterwards said, like, that wasn't one of the greatest things I did today? You know what I mean? Even if they hated doing the workout too, they might have said, I hated doing the workout, but afterwards they go, I'm so glad I went. Where
Yeah.
it's so easy to hit the snooze button if it's early in the morning, or I'm too tired after work. So that's what I find. It's still that personal touch that you have to
Yeah.
have. And Andy, going back with Crunch, we've got something for everybody now. I mean, we've got, for our group fitness classes, my gosh, we have all the, let me just call it the traditional group fitness classes that you might find in the group fitness room. But then we've got our hit zone classes. We've got hot yoga. We've got the cycling classes. We're always coming out with more stuff there in the group fitness side. Obviously, with personal training, we have so many different types of personal training. Again, like 30-minute, 60-minute workout with a friend, those kind of things. And, all the different types of equipment you could ever want. Our relax and recovery areas have expanded greatly. It used to just be a hydro massage and a tanning option. Now we have compression chairs. We have the cryo chairs. It's just evolving, and we want to stay at the forefront of that.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the future holds as people continue to crave connection, right? As now jobs are at home, workouts can be at home. I think social isolation is just growing, obviously. We all see it all around us. And it'll be interesting to see what things like gyms and different ways of people getting together, what that looks like and how we can continue to connect.
Yep.
So at Crunch right now, what is a program, format, initiative that you're most excited about?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's something that our company, just from CR Fitness, which is the franchise name, uh, basically partnered with corporate on, but it's a new technology platform that, again, our COO Pete Constantino and Derek Druce and Joseph Medley, just people from our company, they headed this up actually, and they partnered with a company out of Dubai. That company out there, they have one of, to your earlier question, Andy, they have one of the highest percentages of client retention that's been seen basically in the world. And when they were looking at our company, when this conversation apparently was had at URSA a couple years ago, we do have a nice percentage of client acquisition, but our goal was how do we retain them longer? So now we've just finished rolling out this new initiative. Every single coach of ours now has a tablet. And with their tablet in their training session, it basically goes both ways. So, Lauren, if you're a personal training client of ours, you can actually access right on the Crunch app. You're going to see everything about your own personal training. You have full visibility of how many sessions you have. You're going to be able to schedule directly with Andy if Andy's your coach, and vice versa. You have a food log that can be seen both ways. Andy can be sending you workouts that you might do at home because maybe you're working with him twice a week, but you need to get that extra day. Just going to say this on our podcast, but it's out there, and those of you that operate within gyms understand this. But there is a challenge sometimes of let me just say it, but trainers stealing sessions. So now, Lauren, anytime you complete a session, you just finished your session with Andy, you actually app have to push a button that says you completed the session. And then that way you get this acknowledgement, and you can even rate him, which then shows on our website and on the app. But there's no way that we know of right now anyway, but trainers, but there's no way that, they can't use that session. So hypothetically, if you're at home on a Sunday afternoon and all of a sudden it shows up on your app that you just did a session with Andy, you're going, I wasn't even there. So it's a great protective mechanism. So
Interesting.
all the front end also speaks to the back end. So now all the data that we have that's coming in through this, our managers can go in and they can look by coach on how many sessions they've serviced, how many, let's say, potential workouts they did that the person didn't purchase personal training. The list goes on and on and on, but it allows us to manage our business so much more too. So even though I love, again, hey guys, I can't wait to tell you about this new workshop I'm doing, I still love, though, this is going to change everything for us and just make us that much more efficient and hopefully increase the client experience that, again, you're just like, I can totally see when my sessions are. It's not just this text that you're sending each other going, are we on for Tuesday? And then it's not in the calendar, all those kind of things. So just trying to bring, let's say, the technology up to the level that I feel our service is. That's what I'm probably most excited about.
Very cool. So, Rob, you've had a very impressive career in the fitness industry. What advice would you give someone just entering today?
Just entering today. As a personal trainer?
Yeah, personal trainer. Maybe they want to be you when they grow up. What advice?
You don't want to be me. What I would say being a personal trainer, though, is just take the blinders off. Realize there's multiple ways to do different things. Be as open as you can as far as learning from as many people as you can. I really would, and it is so much personality, as I mentioned before. I try to tell new coaches this, though, but when you're in the club, you need to be the mayor. You can't let anybody get by you without at least smiling, giving them a nod, giving them a fist bump, and obviously I wind up being that weird guy at, Walmart that I'm like smiling at people and nodding because I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not in the club right now. But, I always say, to me, there's nothing worse than, I always say I'm not a home fix-it guy, and I go to Home Depot and I don't know where to go. And I feel like a new member that might walk into our gym that goes, what do I do first, right? And if I'm in Home Depot, but all of a sudden the person walks past me with the orange apron and I just need a screw this big, but there's 20 different aisles. I'm like, and they don't acknowledge me. It drives me nuts. So this way, don't have that tunnel vision. Walk around, big smile. And it's hard for some people that are more introverted, and, everybody knows the expression, the RBF, but you got to overcome it. You just do, but that to me, I don't know if that's too small of advice, but go out there and just get to know as many people as you can,
Yeah.
smiling and helping as much as you can as well.
Yeah. You can't motivate by just telling someone a fact, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
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 How are you going to do it? Yeah.
Hey, Rob, we've introduced a new thing towards the end of our podcast, and this is called Quickfire. So I'm going to ask you a question. You have no more than 10 or 15 seconds. You've got to answer this. And
Okay.
this can be personal. This can be corporate hat on, whatever you want. So where do you see fitness education heading? Where do you see fitness education heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Fitness education.
Next 5 to 10 years.
That's a good question. Gosh. I think recovery is going to keep expanding more and more and more. Because you told me 10 to 15 seconds. It's just a new thing, and you guys know how that goes. I mean, we're still talking about core, you know what I mean, which, bridge the gap from physical therapy in, 99, 2000. So I think that's going to keep evolving too.
Yeah. What do you do personally to maintain your fitness?
Personally, I do like to do my weight training about 5 days a week, but mind you, I probably spend more time foam rolling each morning than I actually do working out, just so you know. I actually am a big fan of jujitsu, so I like to get some jujitsu in during the week. I'm probably 2 to 3 times a week. Those are probably my biggest things.
Okay. Cold therapy? Yes, no?
I've gotten some pretty cold showers, but I haven't quite been able to hit that level or had the opportunity yet. And really, it's just because I'm a chicken of like getting into the cold plunging tub. So yeah, I've heard great things. A lot of my friends swear by it, but haven't had a chance yet.
Red light therapy, yes or no?
Again, heard amazing things about it. I have not had the chance to experience it yet myself.
Online coaching versus live coaching, which will survive AI?
I think you probably would know my answer if you've listened this far, but we have a lot of phenomenal coaches on our team that do online coaching too. But I just think it's all about the in-person. I really do. And even if that means if online can at least mean like what we're doing right now is, some form of a video conference, then I think that still counts as live. But yes, versus just sending over workouts and, that kind of thing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on CrossFit, High Rocks, Ninja Warrior, things like that?
Listen, a long time ago, I came to the realization that whatever motivates somebody to get moving, hey, like as long as it's safe, as long as you're seeing results, those are the biggest things to me. So I know a lot of people out there that have a very competitive side. So when it comes to like when CrossFit really became big, I had a lot of my friends that they would be so bored doing my workout. You guys, I always make the joke on Fridays, I train biceps, okay? Just because it's the end of the week and I just want to do a little body part, right? Nobody in their right mind just wants to do that for a workout. So I would never give that to a client. But if they're sitting there going, hey, I want to beat my time, or I want my name up on the board, or I want to make it through this course at this time, I think it's fantastic.
Any insights on what you see as the next big thing in fitness?
I think with the technology, that seems to be really, really cool because again, we've all had, the different trackers, but like I said, now I've become part of the Whoop gang and just to see the data alone, which, I'm still trying to understand it all. I think it's incredible just seeing what we can find out from our body with things that we can literally like wear on our finger or our wrist. Whereas back in the day, you had to go to an exercise physiologist and go through a battery of tests. It's just amazing. And that way we can really fine tune our bodies, almost like taking our car to a mechanic and then plugging in and saying, here's where the issue is. Here's how we're going to fix it. So I think the technology probably the most.
That was pretty good, Rob. 19.34 seconds was your longest. So I'm impressed with that. That's that. And I use my technology for that. Hey, Rob, this has been awesome. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And as we wrap up, some of the core values of our podcast are strength, kindness, and perspective. And you've definitely shown a ton of strength, huge perspective, which hopefully all the trainers and professionals listening to this, the clients listening to this will take a lot from that. But kindness is one of the pillars. Is there someone in your life who embodies these values, someone who's deeply influenced or inspired your journey that you'd like to give a shout out to?
You know what? This is he's really my best friend in life. But his name is Tony Gray, and Tony and I used to work together at Apex way back in the day, and he used to take care of San Diego, and I was more Orange County and LA County at the time. And then he's the one that actually left to help start that Rush Fitness Complex, and he's who brought me into the fold. And we were always, co-workers. But then when I went there, I mean, he was my boss, and he promoted me as well, and promoted me there to become a VP of education. But Tony is one of those people especially in this realm, but on the personal side too. Again, teaches people there could be multiple ways of doing things, and here's how we work. And I worked hand in hand with him for 10 years again, when he would host any meeting with, let's say, his districts, his personal training managers. And I don't know, nobody led that I've met like Tony. There was always 100% responsibility, but always how can we help you be better? So yeah, he's as my best friend, but he's had a huge influence on me at times. I go, you tell me if I don't see it this way, like you tell me, slap me across the head and go, it's you right now. You need to look at it this way. And I'm like, thank you. You know what I mean? I needed that.